I gotta say this to my white friends. Don't ever be afraid for somebody to call you racist. If it's racist for you to support a president that makes sure we have the lowest black unemployment, to make sure black babies ain't being killed, to make sure there's money invested in our community, well, tell them you're the best racist ever. I mean, and somebody, please do me a favor. Can somebody tell Donald Trump how to be a racist? Because he's not doing a good job.
Yo, Black Lives Matter! Actually, all lives matter. That's racist. Black Lives Matter!
One day later.
That's racist. All lives matter!
There's $24 billion here and there, $500 million there. Some people want to be paid back, and members of the public are wondering, why are we suffering when you have all of this vast wealth? Those are legitimate concerns.
Well, I think you're right about reparations in terms of if people want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa. And when...
Ooh, that was an... Okay.
You study today's black culture is trash. Ain't nothing positive about black culture. We're not highlighting spelling bee winners. We don't talk about the newest black business that's doing good. When you go on social media, you look at some of the most trending videos and trending topics. It ain't black empowerment. It ain't uplifting black people. When you look at our movies, we ain't got no black heroes. Black culture has black propaganda. Hitler used propaganda to get the Germans to turn on the Jews. We use propaganda for our culture. We propagate pimps, gangsters, killers, womanizers, robbers, deceit, being unfaithful. We got some propaganda, homie, that's brainwashing.
I am a pastor. I'm a man of faith. I have a profound reverence for life. Well, I want to save your life.
I have to respond to this very quick because he told me Black Lives Matter. And if you think about it, Senator, in Atlanta, Georgia, there's more black baby that is aborted than anything. So if Black Lives Matter, why are you not protecting those babies? And instead of aborting those babies, why are you not baptizing those babies?
The Woman King is a modern-day version of D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. The 1915 silent film was used to promote racism through its false narratives. The Woman King does the same thing. It lies and misappropriates history, leaving the viewer into thinking that the Dahomey tribe eradicated slavery from within their ranks. They did not. Instead, they continued on with impunity. Yet, people still make excuses. Some people refuse to put any blame whatsoever on Africa for their huge part in the slave trade. Now, why is that? Black Lives Matter! Oh, did you see the new Candace Owens film on BLM? Nah, man, you a sellout. Oh, you mean BLM raising nearly $80 million, but almost zero money going to the black community? Building several lavish multi-million-dollar properties in affluent all-white neighborhoods and investing $13 million in Wall Street? You mean that kind of a sellout? Oh, man, Black Lives Matter! Despite Roots' claim that during the heyday of the massive slave trade from West Africa to America, a white man was more likely to develop malaria in Africa than catch slaves. The average life expectancy of a white male in sub-Saharan Africa's interior at the time was less than a year. Men from Europe or the Western Hemisphere arrived on Africa's coast, bought slaves, and fled as quickly as they could. For the slave trade to be possible, they needed massive help from Africans. Because we do not want to be numbers, we will defend the value of the human being. Every single human being, because each of us has a unique genetic code that is unrepeatable. And like it or not, that is sacred. We will defend it. We will defend God, country, and family. For those things that disgust people so much, we will do it to defend our freedom. Because we will never be slaves and simple consumers at the mercy of financial speculators.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
This is what Reagan later meant by "we are a shining city on a hill." All right. How's everybody doing today? I got a million things going on this morning, but I thought it would be really, really good to do a live stream this morning and talk to you about what's going on this week and also talk about an election map prediction. Well, I wouldn't say, well, let's just say where the actual map is. So let's go ahead and do that actually right now. And just so you guys know, what I'm going to do today in this live stream is I'm going to go over the election where it is now from an aggregate total of the most accurate polling sites, organizations from 2020 and even 2016. And those are going to be the Traffica Group, Rasmussen Polling, On Point Polling, and Big Data Polling. That's Rich Barris. Those guys. And also it's weighted in various different ways. Now, I'm not doing these numbers myself. This is something that I put together in a spreadsheet. I'm going to read that off to you. I'm going to go through all 50 states plus DC. And so if you want to just, get a piece of paper and watch these margins, you can see for yourself where the election stands now. And now this is actually modeled, again, based on turnout, based on, I'm not sure if it's based on the actual registration. That's a key indicator, but I don't think that's related to this particular result. It's basically based on crosstabs, based on various demographics, age, sex, party affiliation, low propensity voters, people who vote, let's say, less than one time in 4 cycles. That's low propensity. Whereas, by the way, these people are actually breaking for Trump 20% higher than Biden. And that number is actually old. That's as it was a month and a half ago. If you go to our locals, there's a link. I'll probably put a link in the description. But if you go to, I think it's going to be theconservativetake.locals.com. It's free. There's an article out there where we talk about election and that sort of tendency for low propensity voters or for working class voters, Black, white, non-religious voters in big, huge population centers. All that data is there based off Rich Barris and Richard Barnes from their podcast. And I have links there so you can go check it out for yourself. But that data is old, so it could be even higher now in terms of the breakaway of low prop voters. Anyway, long story short, I'm talking a lot, but what this is going to be is just a really, really good picture of where the election stands. And I'm telling you right now, and I'm not one person to really get overconfident, and I don't think we should. And I don't think you should take this particular video as being overconfident, because Kamala Harris is trying some things that may work in terms of getting the numbers down closer together so she can actually have a shot at this thing. Not to mention, there's another factor that I'll mention at the end of this particular segment when I go over to Rumble and maybe even locals to people who are paid members there. I may do a 30-minute thing there as well. But I'm going to talk about the election integrity and how things could go sideways and what to look for if things go sideways. Because, hey, I'm going to call it both sides, because right now there's no way Trump's going to lose this thing straight up. There's just no way, right? So, I mean, she would literally have to lead the Real Clear Politics polling by at least 7 points to have a shot. If you consider that Joe Biden in 2020, he had a 7.2 lead going into the election on the Real Clear Politics polling. And if you're not sure what that is, it's a Real Clear, that's right, Real Clear Politics. That particular site, Real Clear, is a aggregate of all the recent polls that fall within a criteria. They're rated as good polls versus bad polls. And so they pull in polls that they feel should be included in their series. And of those polls, those guys, let me move my head down a little bit. So my head is sticking up down. There we go. All right. So within the Real Clear Politics polling, they take the polls and then they average them out There's no cherry picking. It's what it is. So it's pretty definitive. Joe Biden had a 7.2 lead going into the November election, and he only won by 40,000 votes when you spread it out over 3 states. I think it was 20,000 in Wisconsin, 10,000 in Georgia, and 10,000 in, I keep forgetting, Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. Between those 3, it was a 40,000 spread. It was the second closest election in the history of our country. All right, so enough of that. So here we go. So let me just pull this up here. And here's a clean map. And I'm going to pull up on my side here a spreadsheet. And if I can show you this, I will show you this just so you can see what we're looking at here. Let me just stop this quickly, and I'm going to share my other screen just so you can see what we're looking at here. And I may make this available to you guys on Locals. I may put it behind the paywall only because, you know, you know how it is. Everything else on Locals is free right now, so I may make this special. Let's share the screen real quickly. Let's give you a sneak peek. So let's put this up on the screen here. So here's what we're looking at here. And what I've done is I have the state, and I'm going to order it by west to east. That way I can do it quickly on screen. It's not sorted that way. So I have the order here sorted simply for if I wanted to do it in terms of whatever. I don't know what I did there, actually. But anyway, so anyway, it's color-coded based on the margins, and it goes down from there in terms of safe, likely, and whatnot. So we'll color in the blue states first, and then we'll color in the Trump states, which are safe, and then we'll cover the swing states, which look very, very good for Trump. And these numbers are as of 10/11 of this month. I took some time to update those from the last video I did, which we have out on the channel. You'll see the thumbnail with me holding my fist up or doing this with 312 behind. That's what we predicted there. So, but this video is more not necessarily about the actual electoral college win or victory. It's actually the margin in which Trump's doing and how crazy it is in terms of the difference between 2020. So let's get started. And by the way, guys, I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Per usual, if you want to comment, you can do so. It's just me here. I don't have a producer in studio, so I got to kind of do both, monitor both. So if you want to comment, feel free to do so, and I will glance over there from time to time, and I will comment on your posts. All right, guys, let's go. Move this over here. All right, so let's. Can you see it yet? It's on the screen. Yes. On the screen. Nope, it's not on the screen. Let's do this. There we go. All right. So let's start on the state of Washington. Now, just so you know, we're going from the bluest states to the light bluest states, and we are identifying. We're classifying what's likely is based on if it's under 5, we're considering that a lean, or we're calling that a swing state, more or less. If it is less than 10, we're considering that likely. If it's over, I think if it's over 10 or over 11, we're considering that a safe. And so we're going from safe, likely, and lean. Is that right? Yes. So lean, likely, and safe. All right. So let's get started here. State of Washington, 12 electoral college votes. That is right now looking at a margin for Trump of, for Kamala Harris at 12. So that's going to be a solid blue. Let's get that. Actually, this doesn't have leaners in there. So let me add that to here. Let's do that. There we go. Let's do that. So in this case, Washington's going to be a margin of 12.
state of Oregon, right below that, for electoral college points of 8 or votes of 8, is also going to be considered safe. And the margin there is going to be 10. So Kamala is leading that by 10 points. And by the way, 10 points is crazy close for a state like Oregon. And even 12 for Washington is pretty close. I mean, looking at 2020. Now, California, this is even close because it right now for the 54 electoral college votes, California is leaning 20% win or 20-point win for Kamala. And that's definitely going to be safe. And by the way, we're calling Oregon as being likely since that's 10. So 10 is going to be considered likely. Anything above 11 is going to be considered safe. Okay? It's coming down to Colorado, a state that Obama won. This is 10 electoral college votes. And this is a likely for Harris at a margin of 8. Let's keep coming a little bit east, coming to Illinois. That's going to be a margin of 10, which also can be considered likely, which Colorado is also likely. And that's going to be 19 electoral college votes. So right now you see Kamala's up 29. 103 to nothing so far. Vermont, another seriously, probably the most Democrat state we have. This is a plus 30 margin for Kamala. Absolutely safe. No chance there whatsoever. Now, New Jersey is interesting. These numbers, I mean, after I look at these things, it's really, really crazy how close New Jersey is. And like I said before, I mentioned that in New Jersey, you know, these big population centers, you have Black and Hispanic men mostly who are under the age of 50, who are working class. These people are breaking hard for Trump because they're disillusioned. They've seen the Obamas, they've seen the Bidens, they've seen the "you ain't black," they've seen all this, and they're also seeing their needs aren't being met by their own community. You have the mayor of New York talking about, hey, what's going on with these illegals coming in? And you see it in their social service infrastructure. Schools, community centers being gutted out, programs being canceled because they have to house immigrants. And the communities are infuriated, especially Black people who say, look, haven't we been here like 200 years? You know, haven't our ancestors, haven't we paid our dues? And yet people can come over and get treated way better. Why is that? And we'll talk about that a little bit, maybe in the local side, but I've mentioned before on the channel, but it's something that's really, really making these people infuriated. And when it comes to white, under 50 men in particular, working class, who don't particularly go to church, they're disillusioned as well. They're being tired of being called homophobic, racist, misogynist, whatever. They're getting sick of that stuff, man. And all they are saying is that their grocery bills are high and it's hard for them to keep the heat on. And that goes across the board, even with Blacks and Hispanics. And so they're like, look, come on, man, seriously? And that's what's going on. And so that's across the country. Every major city, we're seeing these things. So the Democrat blue wall or the Democrats' hold on these massive population centers is absolutely crumbling before their eyes. And the problem or the challenge is going to have to get these people to come out to vote. Men don't typically vote at the ratio or the rate of women. So that's going to be the challenge. Yes, you can be mad, but it doesn't do any good if you don't get out and vote. All right, DC. I take it back. That's the most Democrat. That's looking at 74 for Harris. Now, interestingly, DC, if you look at the numbers there in the internals, you'll see the Black vote of that is actually coming down. That's not enough to do anything, but the Black vote in DC is coming down. I think 4 or 5 points, I believe, from last time. I can verify that later, but there is something going on there. But that's where I'm from. I was born in DC and in Maryland. Forget about it. You know, they're basically cesspools. All right, Massachusetts is definitely a solid And by the way, DC is 3 electoral college votes. Massachusetts is 11. So that's going to be a 26-point margin for Harris. Let's keep going. Let's hurry through these. All these are going to be for her. Connecticut at 7 electoral college votes, absolutely going to be safe at 12 electoral college votes. Rhode Island, that'll also be 12 for 4 electoral college votes. It's going to be safe. That's going to be Rhode Island for 4. Let's come down to Maine 1st District. Now, I mentioned this in my other video. I'll say it here again. Well, I guess I have to explain the electoral college, but I'll do that again here. Essentially, when you vote on election day or early voting, you're not voting for Trump. You're not voting for Harris. You're not voting for Cornel West or Stein or whatever. I mean, Joe Stein, yeah. You're voting for an electorate. You're voting for a person who's going to go to your state house and cast a ballot for you. At that point in time, that will go to the Congress on January 6th, per se. I'm not sure what it is this year, but that's what it was last time. And then they would verify it there in the Senate based on all these things. And so because of that, it's broken down by your congressional districts plus 2, which is your senators. So every state will have at least 2 senators. Now, DC, I'm not sure why they don't have senators. I don't know why they have 3. It doesn't seem fair, but but Vermont has 3, meaning that they have 1 congressional district and they have 2 senators. That's how that works. So when we talk about in terms of Maine District 1, we're talking about one of those electorates. They split them out. So you can't get a winner take all in Maine, nor can you do a winner take all in Nebraska. Those are the 2 states that have split electoral college votes. So saying all that, District 1 in Maine is solid. It's safe. 16 points for Harris. Okay, and let's come down to Maryland. That's 26 points for Harris. That's going to be 10 electoral college votes. Let's color in Maryland. That's going to be a solid blue. Delaware, Joe Biden's stomping ground. That right now is at 10, and that's going to be likely for Kamala Harris. And Delaware, we'll color that a light blue there. And for New York, this guys, oh man, I'm not even gonna hold you in suspense. New York is going to be likely, but we're looking at a margin of 8 for New York. How crazy is that? That's insane. So that's for 28 electoral college votes, a margin of 8, likely for New York. Hawaii is also interesting. Hawaii is one of the states that are breaking the furthest red. Now, it's still going to go for Harris, but right now, Hawaii is only looking at a margin of 14. And Hawaii consists, and that's going to be safe anyway, but we'll color it safe. But even then, Hawaii is typically way bluer than that. And that's for 4 electoral college votes. So right here, this is Kamala Harris's floor. She won't do I don't know. I won't. I didn't color New Jersey, did I? I'm sorry. New Jersey was 14. What was New Jersey? Let me make sure to put it in. I missed that one. That's likely. So let's do New Jersey. And I missed New Hampshire too. No, New Hampshire is actually a swing state. All right, so we'll hold on for that one too. So New Jersey is going to be likely. Okay, so is that right? That was good. Okay, so right here at 191, we're looking at Kamala Harris's floor for the most part. I mean, she could lose New Jersey. That is possible. I mean, she could lose New York. I mean, if everything broke hard, like the last day or so, and something else happened in the news, that's theoretical, I guess, but not likely. So that's going to be where she is right now, 191. It all goes downhill from here for her. So now let's color in some of these our red states here. Let's start with Montana for electoral college votes of 4. This is going to be safe. In fact, all these are going to be safe all the way down to Nebraska 3. So let's just do that. So Montana is going to be at 22 for Trump. Idaho is going to be for 4 electoral college votes. It's going to be safe for Trump at 38-point margin. Wyoming, a 50-point Trump win in Wyoming, and that's for 3 electoral college votes. Utah, he had some trouble there a few years back, but not now. It's going to be 28-point win for Trump right now in Utah for 6 electoral college votes. North Dakota and South Dakota, let's do those together because they're basically the same thing. Both are 3 electoral college votes. Both are safe. For North Dakota, that is going to be a margin of 42. For South Dakota, it's going to be a margin of 34. Right, okay. For Nebraska as a whole, the main district in Nebraska, that's the at-large, that is going to be for 2 electoral college votes. That's safe. Trump should win Nebraska, the open or the general, by 24 points. And let's go ahead and do Nebraska 3. That's also going to be safe. Nebraska 3 is going to be for 1 electoral college vote. And let's go ahead and finish it up with Nebraska 2, which actually is leaning, it's actually leaning Democrat, quite frankly. And that's going to be, let's just color that in now. But I think at the end of the day, that will probably break. The margin there is 2 for Kamala Harris for Nebraska, second district. And like I said, the other 2 and the 1 is going to be 56, by the way, I didn't mention that. So let's recap that. So Nebraska at large is going to be 24. Nebraska, the first district, is going to be 22 for Trump. Nebraska District 2 is going to be for leans Harris at -2 there for her, 2-point win for her. And Nebraska District 3 is going to be 56-point margin for Trump for 1 electoral college vote. All right, that makes sense. So here we have Trump right now at 27 to Kamala's 192. Let's keep going to some more safe states here. Oklahoma, a very Trumpy state. We expected him to win Oklahoma by 40. It's safe, and Oklahoma will gather him 7 electoral college votes. Iowa, another safe one. And for a while, Iowa was part of the blue wall, but not anymore. Trump would carry Iowa by 18. It's also considered safe. Come on down to, I think that's going to be Missouri. Yes, for 10 electoral college votes. Expect Trump to win Missouri by 24. Let's come down to Arkansas, right below it. That's going to be a Trump win of 32 32 points at 6 electoral college votes. Louisiana, a very independent Republican state. They are off on their own, but they're really, really individualists. And here, it's been read for a long time. Trump will win Louisiana by 26. Also safe. Let's go to Indiana for 11 electoral college votes. That's going to be also safe at 24 points victory for Trump there. West Virginia, super duper red. In fact, let me just mention about West Virginia and Oklahoma. If you go back and look at all the counties in West Virginia, and all the counties in Oklahoma, every single one of them voted for Trump for both 16 and 20. And no other candidate can say that. Hillary can't say, or Biden couldn't say, that this state, I won all the counties. Doesn't happen. But Trump won all the counties in West Virginia and Oklahoma. And West Virginia's margin will be 48 points for 4 electoral college votes. Ohio, I remember when Ohio used to be a swing state, not anymore. This bad boy is safe. He'll win double digits here. 16 for Ohio, very safe there. And you got in Alabama, And by the way, Ohio 17 electoral college votes. Alabama's next at 9 electoral college votes. We can expect Trump to win Alabama by 36. Also safe. Let's come down some more. A few more safe ones here for Trump. Kentucky for 8 electoral college votes. It's going to be safe at 34 margin. If I said that the other way around in the past, maybe going too fast, but I meant to say, if I said in the future, in the past, 34, I'm meaning to say the percentage that they're going to win. So I'm trying to make sure I say that. I'm sure I'm making mistakes on the fly here on this live stream. But okay, so Tennessee is next at 11 electoral college votes. Trump is expected to win that by 32 points. So basically, all of these are going to be called, within the first hour after the polls close. So I may do a video where I actually go by time zone and kind of simulate election night. I'll tell you right now, Pennsylvania will not be called election night. So we're going to have to win Wisconsin if we expect to go to bed before 2 o'clock. So just because Pennsylvania has that 3-day absentee, early voting, international coming in ballot counts that they are taking way longer than they need to. Somehow Florida can do it, no problem. Whatever, don't get me started. Mississippi, 6 electoral college votes. Trump will win that by 26. And let's come back up into Maine, the 2nd district. That is very, very Trumpy. That would be safe as well. That would be a 16-point win for Trump for 1 electoral college vote. So let's color that guy in. And did we do the Maine at large yet? I think Maine at large is actually. Oh, Maine at large. Okay, I got a surprise for you guys. Okay, so yeah, so here we go. So yeah, so because things changed since the last video. All right, so here we go. So right now, Trump 131. Let me change that. I want to change this. I want that. Can I change that? There we go. Bam. Bam. There we go. Much better. Okay. So right now, Trump's at 131. Harris at 192. We're catching up. Okay, let's keep going. So more safe states. South Carolina at 9 electoral college votes is a 20-point win for Trump there. For Arkansas, no, this is Alaska. For 3 electoral college votes, Alaska will be an 18-point win for Trump there. That won't get called till probably the next day, only because of the time zone. They may call it early, who knows? It depends on the decision desk, right? They have a lot of discrepancy and they have a lot of leeway to do pretty much whatever they want, and that's why Fox News, that's why I dissed them when they called that so early in 2020. Had no business calling that. And I applaud outlets like the Epoch Times, who didn't call the election for about a month and a half after the election. And for good reason. And so, in fact, I don't think Epoch Times called it until like January 6th, I believe, until it actually was confirmed, because it was such one of those things where there were so many discrepancies across various states. And, well, that's another video. But anyway. All right, Texas. You're wondering, is Texas safe? Yes, Texas is safe. Don't listen to these people. Texas is safe. In fact, he's going to increase his margin in Texas. He'll win that by 14. And that's for 40 electoral college votes. And right now, we're only 9 behind the leader. And let's kick into Florida, which a lot of people have as a swing state, which I don't see it that way. Florida right now, even though I want to call it Hillary, even though Kamala opened up an office in Tallahassee recently, I don't think that's an indication of confidence. I think it's an indication of her trying to get some of that Black rural vote, because Florida A&M is out there. So I think that's part of it, to drum up that Black support, because she's way down there, not because she's confident in winning Florida, just kind of shave off some of those numbers. So that's what we have there. So for Florida, for 30 electoral college votes, that's going to be safe, and Trump should win Florida by 12. Now, all right, so let's just kick back here. We've been through a lot here. Trump is up 213 to Harris 192. Let me see if there's any comments here before we move forward. I just want to make sure I don't, if there's anyone, okay, there are some comments here. Let's go through some of these. Okay, let's go through some of these comments before we go into some of these swing states. So let's pull this down. And now one pony had this. Said they are sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Why are they not taking care of their own people? Florida needs help. Carolina needs help. The immigrants are taking all of the social programs. We're going to discuss that probably in our Rumble segment later on. But I'll just tell you, personally, I just think it's, well, first of all, you did see what Bill Clinton said this week when he was campaigning for Kamala Harris, or last week. He essentially said, oh, talking about the I forget the woman's name who was killed. I think it was Lincoln Riley, is that her name? Who was killed by the illegal immigrant who was released directly after the executive order was pulled, who Trump put it in place, and Biden pulled the executive order, and the safety or the border security had to release this criminal into the population, and only a few weeks later he kills this young girl. So Bill Clinton says, well, that wouldn't have happened if they had been vetted properly. And then he goes on to say, well, we have to let them out because we're having a low birth rate, and so we have to have people to come to our country to take the jobs that we're not doing and to populate our country externally versus organically through appropriation with people having families. And so that's what Bill Clinton said. He said the quiet part out loud. And so that's on the surface, but there's something even more sinister underneath that. And it's basically for votes. Just to be clear, open borders allows them to get cheap labor in and do that. Now, in all fairness, the Republicans, for many years, for decades, didn't do the same thing because they wanted the cheap labor. Democrats wanted the votes. It was a swamp. It's the same thing similarly to what the Whig Party and the Democrats did prior to the Civil War. They were looking over each other's backs. They were giving appointments here. They were giving kickbacks here. They weren't too tough on each other because they were both benefiting. And the Uniparty was real, even back during the antebellum period. It's real today. The swamp is real. It's been going on since going back to Jackson, President Jackson, and the spoil system. And it just morphed and transformed throughout the years to various entities. And one day I'll do a video on that as well, talking about that. I'm reading a book by Larry Schweikart called Dragon Slayers, the Six Presidents' War Against the Swamp. And it talks about Grover Cleveland, talks about Trump, JFK, talks about Lincoln. It's really interesting. But to your question, I know one point you asked that question, but that is what's going on there. But there's more to it. It's more nuanced. But ultimately, it's those two things, jobs and votes. And money at the end of the day. Yes, exactly. Let me see here. Take a drink here. All right, cool. So, Man and a Half says, any concern that Congress won't certify a Trump victory? Yes. Absolutely. If they were to do that, well, here's the thing. Now, the current Congress is what's going to be the Congress that's going to be sitting over and presiding over the election, or the actual. Now, what he's talking about here, guys, is, like I said before, when you vote, you go to your polling center and you cast your vote for Trump, you cast your vote for Stein or Harris or whomever. That vote doesn't go to Trump or to Harris or to those guys. It goes to an electorate. It goes to the state house, a real person who is going to cast your vote on your behalf. So if you carry the state, the electorates come together and then they cast your vote on your behalf. And some states have laws that say they have to do it regardless. They have to do it, that they can't go around it. And so everything is a little different there. When it goes to, let's say, the Senate confirmation for the president, all of those particular votes and electorates come to DC in the Senate, and then they open up these ballots, and then they count them, and then they acknowledge them. The vice president is the one who actually is over that particular ceremony. Now, thanks to Democrats, Pence had the plenary authority last time to actually do that, to say, no, I can kick it back. But because the Democrats are so, they only do things that work for them, you know? And because that was a possibility, they put rules in place that can't happen now. So the vice president who oversees that particular confirmation, and last time was January 6th, can't do anything other than just count. They can't, there's no power in the vice president in that particular setting. However, there has to be a vote to say that we are going to certify this election and go forward. If for some reason the Democrats are crazy enough to do that after spending 6 years or 5, let's say 4 years, talking about the threat to democracy, talking about Trump, impeaching him twice for election integrity, for in Georgia having a phone call with the governor. If all this stuff happens and they have the audacity to do that and risk the ultimate destruction of their party, then more power to them. But I think, and I've looked at this many different ways, and right now, man and a half, we don't know what's going to happen with that. It's a constitutional crisis, which means we never had a situation where this actually happened. And who knows what happens there. I suspect what would happen is, number one, the Democrats won't try it. They will probably protest and protest and protest, and they may even kick it back to the states for verification. But the problem there is that unless there's real voter fraud that they can verify and say, or that the electorate somehow votes were circumvented by, let's say, the attorney general of the state or by the governor of the state or by anything, because the Constitution, and this has been codified several times after presidential elections, the state legislators, the state house and the state senate of each state, they have the plenary authority or the constitutional authority to govern the election of that state, and they alone determine who wins that particular state's electoral college votes. They alone, not the attorney general, not the governor, not the lieutenant governor, not a judge, nobody. And that's what the founding fathers wanted to put in place. I'll take some time to explain that real quickly. The founding fathers understood that the closer you can keep the power to the people, the safer this republic will be. So the check against the electoral college system is the state house and state legislature, because their thoughts was if they go corrupt, they can be voted out. But you can't have it so that it's at a federal level, because the federal level could have an agenda and say, okay, well, I know Rhode Island, I know you only, 3 electoral college votes. You really didn't mean to vote for Trump. So we're going to say this, we're going to kick your thing back, and we're going to, do whatever. No. But the problem is, in many states like Pennsylvania, in 2020, over the course of the years, the state house and the state senate of Pennsylvania in particular, they abdicated their responsibility to the attorney general and gave him or her the power to make that determination. They didn't have the time or the ability or the guts to fight. There were a few that did, but they didn't have the guts to fight for that because they only had like 3 months to do this. And the political climate was so hostile, it just wasn't really. I don't want to make a defense for them. They should have done their job. They didn't. But now what's happened is the GOP has actually gone in now, and they've implemented laws and pushed legislation in various swing states in particular to make sure that these laws are in place and that certain authorities are in place. So when this happens again, that we won't see a repeat of people not knowing what to do. And so that's all of this election integrity measures that's been put in place by Laura Trump and the RNC. So I hope I explained that well enough. But yeah, back to your question, man and a half. I think what ended up happening is you have a couple of states go back to the House. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's come back to this question after we finish the entire map, because it's really going to depend on how the map looks, right? If it looks like Florida in 2020, then no way Trump's getting in, right? Because if it's hanging on some hanging chads of some guy looking with Coke bottle glasses trying to see if this is actually a vote or not, then yeah, that's not going to happen. But if it's a landslide, then it's a different story altogether. So let's just go there. Yes, there was voter fraud, and I'm going to talk about that in the hour. They didn't, and I put the blame there on the state legislators of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and let's kick in Georgia as well. All those had, I believe, and Michigan, I believe, all had a majority of Republicans on those state house legislations. It never should have happened. Never should happen. Pence never should have been in a position to even make that call. But we didn't know he did, and he cowered and chickened out and became a traitor. Because all he had to do was say, look, and as much as I like to help you guys, I'm seeing disparity here. I'm seeing problems in Maricopa County. I'm seeing problems in, I guess it's Fulton County, Georgia. I'm seeing problems in Wisconsin. I'm seeing problems in Michigan. 3 a.m. ballot trucks coming in at 3 a.m. Let's just take it back a little bit and let's put it back to the states and let's see what happens. If it comes back the same way, that's different. But let's do that. He didn't do that because he was a coward. Really, never certified. I believe that. Georgia was a mess. It's a mess. And right now they're saying, I think Taylor Marjorie Greene was saying that there's vote switching now in Georgia from these Dominion servers. That story came out yesterday. So it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. So, wow. All right. So let's get back to our map. Thank you for those questions, by the way. And let's pull my thing up here. Okay. So where are we? We were on Georgia, actually. And that's a great segue. It's a fantastic segue. Let's talk about Georgia. Let me move my screen here because this is looking, there we go. Perfect. All right, so Georgia. Now, Georgia looks pretty good right now. And I'm pretty shocked because Atlanta is one of those cities that's super duper Black. It's got Morehouse, it's got Spelman, all these Black universities down there and colleges. Morris Brown, I believe, is there as well, if it's still open. And you have, MLK, stomping grounds, all those things, Jimmy Carter. But like I said before, Atlanta is one of these big cities. And Black men, 1 out of 3 they're looking at, under 50, may go to Trump. That's crazy. That's a third of Morehouse University or college. So, and other things too, they've put in a lot of election integrity laws in Georgia after that fact. And that's a key thing here as well. Not to mention registration across the board in all the states are favoring Republicans. And what I'm thinking about right now, it's important to know that if your state is leaning a certain way in terms of registration, let's say your state has a propensity to vote 2% for Democrats in general. If your registration is, let's say, 1 plus R, you're going to lose because there's a fraud factor in there, and then there's a margin of error factor in there. But let's say Georgia, it tends to go, well, Georgia's a bad exception. Let's pick New Hampshire. Let's say New Hampshire votes +3 Democrat every single time, and your Republican registration in terms of how many Republicans you have versus Democrats is +3, then that candidate has a chance of winning because it's a math calculation factors in. But if it's lower than that margin of Democrats' propensity to win New Hampshire, then that candidate's going to lose. So across the board, we're seeing more Republicans register across the board. That's also going to help with Georgia. For 16 electoral college votes, expect Trump to win Georgia at a likely margin of 6. All right. Arizona, guys, is about to be in the safe column, not from the number standpoint, but what we're seeing on the ground with registration, with what Turning Point USA is doing down there. And Turning Point USA is just, I mean, it's amazing. It's going so well for Arizona right now for electoral college votes of 11. And by the way, Georgia was 16. 11 for Arizona. We're looking at a likely margin for Arizona of a margin of 6. And at that level there, we're looking at Carrie Lake, who's running for Senate there. She ran for governor in 2020. It looks like she could actually get in as well. The inswell of voting in Arizona is absolutely ridiculous. I don't have the numbers here in front of me, but it's jaw-dropping. And by the way, I'm going from the most likely to least likely. So Georgia right now is the most likely right now. Georgia, Arizona, neck and neck in terms of likely for Trump. And by the way, he needs these to win. So and I think he'll get Georgia and Arizona, no problem. I think they'll call those two by 2 a.m. I think they'll do that, especially Georgia. And Arizona being West Coast, they may be a little later. But I think Arizona would may get called earlier too, because Maricopa County is out-registering Democrats. Maricopa County is basically Phoenix. It's the biggest county. If you win Maricopa County, you win Arizona. And so pretty much Arizona is almost a done deal as it is. But you can't guarantee anything because Arizona still has that thing going on there with, what happened before. The recount was kind of a joke. They recounted the same bad votes, which needs a forensic study, not a recount. And I think they tried to do a forensic study in Arizona. If that's not true, let me know in the comments below if Arizona did a forensic study or did they do just a recount. I thought it was a forensic study. And from that, there was some serious weird things going out there in those numbers, if I remember correctly. All right, next state is North Carolina. North Carolina's looking super good too. I've said for literally months on this channel that if you see any poll, I said like 2 months ago, if you see any poll that has North Carolina within the margin of error, take the poll, tear it up, throw it in the trash, because it's a garbage poll. Trump wins North Carolina by 6. I said that 2 months ago when it was like a leaner. It was like Kamala or Biden at 1. I was like, oh, no way. So right now, North Carolina is killing it. It looks like likely at a margin of 8, 16 electoral college votes. North Carolina will go red. It's just a done. I mean, look at Wake County. Look at Durham County. Durham County is a very urban county. It's a highly Black population county. Even the margins there, even though they're winning it in terms of early voting, because that started this past Thursday, early voting started in North Carolina, in person early voting started in North Carolina on Thursday. And every county, from the bluest to the reddest, are overdoing 2020 numbers and in many cases swamping Democrats. Wake County, Forsyth County, which is already kind of red, is doing well. Guilford County is also outperforming. And day 1 and day 2, if you go to our X feed, you'll see all those numbers out there for Carolina. And also, I think we're also doing mainly Carolina. You have all those numbers there for the various counties there and the margins there. Take a look at that. So let's go to Nevada. And I said before that if Arizona is won by 6, or actually I said 5, if Trump wins Arizona by 5 or more, Nevada's going to come on board. And right now we're looking at, and this is average across various polls, not just one poll, not just On Point, not just Traffic Group, not just Rasmussen, not just Big Data Polling, all of them aggregated together and weighted based on other numbers, other metrics, other crosstabs. Nevada, for 6 electoral college votes, look for Trump to win Nevada by 6 at a likely margin. Pennsylvania, another big one. Now, that's even getting redder as we speak. Right now, I have it for 19 electoral college votes, Trump winning Pennsylvania at a likely margin of 6. And that's huge, guys. That's enormous. And if you look at what Scott Presler in Pennsylvania is doing. I said this to some friends of mine on my private chat, and I don't say this very often, but I have statues, all kinds of political figures I have here. This is Washington. This is it. I have, who's this? This is Hancock. Yep, that's Hancock. Got several others, got Jefferson, whatever. They could be building statues. Well, they should be building statues for Scott Presler if he's able to do what we're seeing here. Single-handedly, this guy, by the force of his will, has turned Pennsylvania red. I mean, blood red. You're looking at, he's flipped 2 counties at least. I think Bucks County has flipped in terms of registrations. And it's just absolute, it's insane. Bucks County, I believe, is around Philadelphia area. And the suburbs of Pittsburgh, the suburbs of Philadelphia are turning red because, again, you go back to those, that the blacks, Hispanics, under 50, working class, across the board. It doesn't matter what state you're talking about, what city you're talking about. If it's a mass urban center, you're seeing numbers drop huge, 20% swing to Trump in those areas. And that takes off a lot of those margins of those particular states. See, what happens is these Democrats run the numbers up in LA, in Detroit, in Chicago, in DC, in New York, in Atlanta, in Houston. Well, Houston doesn't count. Well, Houston does count because it doesn't count for whatever. But these huge numbers to get the popular vote. And that's why they win the popular vote, because these massive senators get them that. Well, if you look at Trump at 8 in New York, 8 in New Jersey, and across the board, he's skimming off these votes little by little across these various areas. And he's right now in possession he's looking to win the popular vote. That's why he went to California. That's why he went to, he recently he's going to New Hampshire next week. I believe he went to Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. Where else did he go? That's a very blue state. He's going to speak in Madison Square Garden. I mean, come on. And so I think he also went to New Jersey at one point, early in the campaign. So this is a strategy to win the popular vote. And I think he wants to do that because, number one, it shuts down the discussion of let's get rid of the Electoral College. Because the Democrats love to throw stuff away when it doesn't work in their favor. They have no problem with the Supreme Court when going back to Warren, those guys back in the 60s and 70s, when they were having all these liberal decisions in their favor. No problem there. But then you have Reagan come in, you have Bush W come in and HW come in, and even Trump come in and appoint these people who are actually, they're say originalists in terms of their interpretation of the Constitution and the law and original intent. Oh, now it's a problem. Oh, they didn't have a problem with the Electoral College when they had the blue wall, when they had Minnesota. We still have Minnesota, actually. They had Iowa, they had Illinois, they had Ohio, they had Pennsylvania. And, Obama had this blue wall, and they thought, you know what? There's no way we can lose now because we have all these states that the Republicans can't come close because they're all blue collar, union, black, Hispanic. They can't touch us. The blue wall is ours. But now in 2016, Trump broke the blue wall, destroyed it. He won Michigan. He won Wisconsin. He won Pennsylvania. And next thing you know what, guys? It's time to get rid of the Electoral College. These people they have no care about anything other than them staying in power. That's it. They don't care. And be damned everything else. Let's look at the, even like loading the Supreme Court, the Electoral College, and what else we got to think about right now? Whatever the Constitution, or the filibuster. It's another thing. The filibuster in the Senate. They want to get rid of that now because, they want to, because it's not working for them right now. But it ends up biting them in the butt later when it comes back on them. So if Trump wins the Electoral College vote and the popular vote, then what are they going to do? There's going to be a mass hysteria. I think Trump knows that. He wins the popular vote by 2 or 3. It's going to be pandemonium. it shuts down the whole get rid of the electoral college argument day one once that happens, because they know at that point in time, they got problems, and they know they have serious problems because he's going to deport at least 1 million people within his first 4 years. At least 1 million. And then I would think another 2 or 3 would deport if Elon Musk gets in and does what he wants to do, and if J.D. Vance does what he wants to do in terms of eliminating the government waste by 60, 70%, they're going to want to get out of the country because they're not going to be getting the benefits that they came over here for. So anyway, let me see if there's any more questions here. Comments. Let's see here. Let's read this comment here. I predict that Trump will turn New York red. Now, I told my wife that today. I said, you know what? If things go south, man, that really could happen. It really could happen. I don't think personally it will. I'm not going to go on record saying that. But if it happens, don't be shocked, guys, because 8 points, man. If there's a low turnout in people, and if Trump does something like, let's say Trump did something like this. Let's say Trump has a rally toward the end, and he brings in, like, let's say Ice Cube on stage, and they have a campaign that says something of the nature of, okay, in 2020, we talked about this so-called platinum plan, this plan that was hundreds of millions of dollars support for the Black community, entrepreneurship, real solutions, not the reparations that Kamala was trying to do. If they framed it similarly to what Trump did in Butler, which, by the way, I was there at Butler, when you said, as I was saying, what if Ice Cube came up and said, as I was saying, Mr. President, let's do this platinum plan. Let's get it going. What? What if he did that at Madison Square Garden? What? I'm telling you, man, that would be hot. That would put him within the margin of error in New York. In fact, before Biden dropped out, New Jersey definitely was within their margin of flipping, but New York was getting close to the margin of error. So it's 2 weeks to go. That could happen. If it does happen, something like that could make that happen. It's something that done, in my mind, were to happen. That would be hot. That would be hot. Let's keep going. Another question here. Yes. Okay, let's go here. Yes, I think a lot of New Yorkers are on his side, but will they have the Electoral College vote with the majority? I'm not sure what you're saying there, Becky, but will they have the Electoral College vote? The way it works is if you win the popular vote in your state, you are awarded the Electoral College of that votes of that particular state. Now, not every state is like that. Some states you are compelled to do it. So I'm not sure about New York, but good question there. Yeah, right now, the way it seems now, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right there. I think she's under 200, and you'll see that in a second here. Absolutely, that's absolutely true. We are mistreated, and many of us are waking up. Yeah, and just a way more. Look, I can talk forever on this, guys, but I'm in this like deep right now. I told myself that I would not get this involved in the election this year because I was so depressed after the last one, and so deflated. But we have to do our duty. Benjamin Rush, who was a founding father, said it's about duty. It's not the results. You know, if I'm the only person in America voting for Trump, and I know for a fact he's going to lose, and he loses 81 million votes to 1, I'm going to vote for Trump. You know, and let God handle the results. And it's a good story of John Quincy Adams. I don't have time. Well, let's tell the story. John Quincy Adams is a good story where he was the president of the United States. he and Andrew Jackson got into a feud and basically got kicked out of office. And he went to Congress. He went from the president of the United States to be a lowly congressman. And he had such a disdain for slavery. His dad was John Adams, the second president of the United States. One of the reasons why we have this country was his dad and his mom, actually. And he went to Europe with his dad on a trip to help with help Benjamin Franklin get money over to our side. So he was a world traveler. And so he had a perspective of slavery that a lot of colonials didn't. A lot didn't like it, the Northerners particularly, but they tolerated it. Well, John Quincy Adams hated it. And so he spent, I want to say 20 years Congress, every single day, standing up on the floor of the House, screaming at the top of his lungs to let's end the slave trade. Let's end slavery. This is an abomination. This is against God's law. This is against natural law. And people laughed at him for years. They said, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing? You know, this is going to happen. Slavery is here. It's here forever. You're just being an idiot. And he basically told those guys, look, man, it's not the results. It's my duty to do this. And I get emotional thinking about this because we all should take this approach. John Quincy Adams died before he saw any results. He was on the Hill in D.C. for years, for maybe 2 decades. Go look it up. I'm not sure how many years it was. Didn't see a single result. It's hopeless. Give up. You're a moron. He died. It's over, right? Unless you think about a young senator from Illinois. See, I'm getting emotional on live TV. A young senator from Illinois became friends with John Quincy Adams. And John Quincy Adams was a mentor to this man. And when John Quincy Adams died, this man, Abraham Lincoln, was his pallbearer. He carried his casket out. And Abraham Lincoln, we know what happened. The rest is history. So don't tell me that what we do today doesn't matter. Don't tell me that what we do now isn't going to affect generations down the line. And it was that passion that helped Lincoln formulate his opinion to constitutionally, well, that's a whole other story as well. I know there's some debate there, but it doesn't matter. It ended up happening, and John Quincy Adams didn't see any of that at all. In fact, he was on the floor and had a stroke while he was giving one of his tirades, and he died the next day. They put him in the Senate chamber somewhere where he died in the Congress. And it was so bad, I failed to mention this, he was yakking so much and pissing so many people off, they gave him a gag order. They said, you can't talk on this anymore. They shut him down. That's how bad he was. Anyway, I got to take a break there. I tell you a story, guys. I get totally really pumped up and emotional. But so that comment there was really, really good, guys. Where were we at? All right. So even when they freed the slaves, they put them in prison and sold them to the same people who had owned them. Yeah. Well, that we can table that. I will actually. I'm not familiar with that, so I'll be clear. I'm gonna research that and get back to another video. I'm curious about that particular statement. I'm not saying it's not true. I believe you, but I want to look more into that. Yep, on this Abe and Becky. Okay, cool. Let's wrap this segment up here, guys. And I am going to get back to that particular point you said there. I'm really curious about finding out more about that. I really am, because I like that history. All right, so let's get back to where we were. And let's pull up the last few states here. So I think we're on Wisconsin. Let's recap. Pennsylvania, 19 electoral college votes, likely at 6. Can we have that? Let's come down to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, it's going to be likely 6 for 10 electoral college votes. Wisconsin is a hard state to poll. Wisconsin almost always polls left and votes right. If you go back and look in 2020, the day of, I looked at this a few days ago. The day before the election in Wisconsin, Biden was leading Wisconsin by 17, I believe. And he ended up winning by less than, quote unquote, winning by less than 1. And the whole thing now is different. And so I think Wisconsin, I don't say I know. I feel that Wisconsin will be won, but I think he'll win by 6 at a margin, if not more. That gives us to Michigan. Michigan, margin of 4 right now on this. And some states, actually, this is going to be a lean. So that's going to be a lighter color for Michigan. That's going to be 15. And right now we see he's well above 270. That's what you need to win. So if we take this off, when did he cross over? He crossed over in Wisconsin, I believe, right? No, something else. Well, Pennsylvania crossed over. So he's got to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, and everything else, and he will have the 270 that he needs to win. Okay. So now it gets better from here and worse for Kamala. So now the rest of these are still leans. So like I said before, New Hampshire, for 4 electoral college votes, Trump is going to be in New Hampshire next week. And that's only 4 votes. But again, these are small states. So in New Hampshire, even though we have a lean Kamala right now, that's going to cover Maine as well, and the Vermont, Massachusetts. No, he won't win those states, New York, Connecticut. He can still pull down those numbers. He's going for the popular vote. And I think he wants to extend the map such that Kamala has to defend a state she needs to win. That's good defense. He's good everywhere else. He's still going to travel, still going to do every other state, but he's going to sprinkle that stuff in there to do that. And at Trump rallies, I will mention this, that it's not just him giving a speech. It's congressional seats, it's senatorial seats, it's dog catcher seats, it's galvanizing, it's getting names, numbers, volunteers, it's promoting information like vote early. That's one thing it's being pushed a lot at these rallies now. I've been to 2 so far this year. Vote early. It's on big signs. And MSNBC, I believe, or one of these outlets, interviewed someone on the street who was a Republican who never voted early. She said, "You normally vote on election day, right?" She said, "Yeah, I vote on election day all the time. I never ever vote early. So why are you voting now on the first day of early voting?" "Because Trump told me so." So that part of it. So everywhere he goes, he leaves what can I say? He leaves momentum, right? He galvanizes the young Republicans in the area, the college Republicans, the local Senate, House races and everything. Everyone gets excited and energized when he does that. And so that's what it does. And ultimately, it helps cut down on that popular vote when you go into these deep blue areas and take away some votes, because every little bit helps. Because, like I said, if he wins the popular vote, it's going to be the best case scenario for all of us. Okay, and let's come down to Minnesota. This state is absolutely nuts. This was so nuts that this is the only state that actually didn't round up the numbers. I actually kept them at the exact percentages because it's so close. Minnesota, the state of Tim Walz, is a leans Kamala, but at a 0.26 margin, 49.87 to 58.13. Guys, we're going to have to see them campaign in Minnesota. But I think if they do that, I think they're afraid of the optics. I think they're afraid to go to New Hampshire. They can kind of justify, but going to Minnesota, the optics there, ooh boy, that's so bad. But she's going to have to go there. She's going to have to, or he's going to have to go there, even though they hate Tim Walz in Minnesota. And by the way, the Arabs there, the Muslim community there, don't like him. They're voting for Cornel West, Stein, or they're staying home, or they're voting for Trump. I think some organization endorsed Trump too in the Muslim community in Minnesota. So they got big problems. They have to have Minnesota. I mean, that's it's over. Okay, let's come down to New Mexico. Another one that Trump could probably pull. This leans Kamala. I like saying Kamala. I'm not saying Kamala. Screw that. I'm not saying that. She was Kamala all her life. Now she's, oh no, I'm sorry. I'm Kamala. Oh no, you're not. You are Kamala. And it leans 2 for Kamala and for 5 electoral college votes. Now, New Mexico is an old Mexico style state. They are very, very much stuck in that. I guess they're older. That's what I'm trying to say. And they share a little less of the border than, let's say, Arizona, which is what's causing a lot of the problems in Arizona, which is why Arizona is going to go red easily because of that. And so New Mexico, it's a tough state to win, but I think he will if one thing happens. I'll get to that in a second. Now I'm going to leave the last state to the end. Let's go over to Maine, the Maine at large. That's going to go to Kamala as well, probably at a lean of 2. So let's do that light blue. And let's go back to the state. I forgot Kansas. What is Kansas? I skipped over Kansas. Let's do Kansas. It's safe, obviously. Safe for 6 electoral college votes at 22. All right. Now, this is going to be the last state that we talk about. And this to me is the most important state of all the states in the union. Forget Minnesota, forget Wisconsin, forget Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, forget them all. Even not Florida. I think Florida is a Republican version of Virginia. Virginia is a state that is a bellwether state. You have an area in Northern Virginia they nickname Nova, which is and I'm from this area, so I know all about this. I know this area very, very well. Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria, those areas up there are DC employed, government employed, well-to-do, wealthy people who are bringing those values into Virginia. And they swamp the rest of the state, which has been traditionally conservative for years. And it's just a hard state to win. Now, they do have a Republican governor now, and that was because of the way he was about to do it and the way he was able to appeal to the urban working class voter, and he won by a lean margin. And so I don't particularly think Trump will win Virginia, because right now I see Kamala as a lean of 4 there. So, but if she is 6 or less, which right now the Real Clear Politics has her at 6, that's a huge problem for her, because every other state leans to the right of Virginia. So if Virginia is going to go down, let's say, to 2 or 3, you can go ahead and tick off New Mexico. You can go ahead and tick off Minnesota. You can tick off New Mexico. You can tick off the Maine. All of these states here, New Hampshire, Minnesota, New Mexico, and Maine, the general, will all go for Trump. And so going back to what Man and a Half said, I'm glad I remembered. So let's say this scenario happens on election day. Let's say at the end of the night or a week later, this is what we have. It's been confirmed by AP, by CNN, by Fox News Desk, by everyone. This is the electoral college map. Trump wins 312 to 226, which what I'm saying here, I said that she wouldn't get over that, and that's premise on the case of her losing, let's say, a Virginia and losing a New Mexico, or maybe losing a Minnesota. In that case, I can definitely see her being under 200. Let's say this happens. What would the Congress do? So what would happen is all these red states, all these states, they would have meetings in their state capitals. Texas would come in, say, open up the votes. It's been certified by whomever. And so now we're going to cast our votes for Trump, all or nothing. And that goes to DC, goes to a box, secure box, whatever. It goes to the Hill in DC. So on January, whatever day that is, I'm not sure if it's the 6th or not. Let me look at my calendar. Does anybody know what day the certification is on the House? It's probably going to be the 7th. Let me look up last year. So January, no, that's 2 years from now. So I gotta go a long way back. Give me a second here, guys. I'm going to go back to 2020 and see what day January 5th was on. 6th was on. A Monday. Okay. So then that means that this year it would be on the 6th again. Looks like it. Yeah. So January 6th, that's weird. That's weird how that happens that way. Typically it's not like that. So January 6th of next year, 2025, we'll have that happen. So what happens? So let's just say Michigan is, let's say, still up in the air in terms of it's been contested. It's super duper close. And that's still not enough to put her over the top. So that wouldn't do it. So you would also have to say maybe Pennsylvania, if that was contested. Then that still wouldn't be enough to put her over the top. What else could happen in this particular case? I guess Wisconsin or Georgia. I'll say probably Georgia because they can use the corrupt county in Wisconsin. No, they can't do Georgia. There's too many security checks in place there. And Wisconsin is hard too because they have, let's go Wisconsin. Let's say that's the case. And that's how it looks. 268 to 226. And I can see them pushing those 3 states back to the House and demanding that they recount and then throwing lawyers all over it to make sure it's true. And they would have to get all 3 for her to get in. So they would have to, and that would have to happen there. And then she would get in with that. All right. So that's one scenario. But let's say that's probably the most likely scenario man to have. But let's say it's like this. And let's say it's like this. And let's say it's like this. And this is what's going to happen if he wins Virginia. It's not going to happen. There's no way in any God's green earth can they look at this map and say, we're not going to certify this election. They would utterly destroy their party. I think Obama would kick in and say, hey, hold. This is give him 4 years and we'll fight him later because Trump is no longer running after this. We'll have J.D. Vance, we'll have Vivek, we'll have DeSantis, or maybe we have a Mark Robinson, North Carolina. Someone like that running that they feel confident they can beat. They feel that the Trump coalition will collapse. Let's just suffer through 4 years. We know deep down he's not Hitler. We know we tell the talking points to the MSNBCs to say we know he's a good guy. We hung out with the guy for 30 years. We know he's come on, we get it. So he's not that dangerous, but they won't tell the media that. But an undercover interviews with the O'Keefe group, did you see that? Where James O'Keefe, the MSNBC guy, said, "Yeah, we feel that our voters, so our viewers, are stupid, so we just tell them whatever." So I think if this was the map, they're gonna sit back and punt because Democrats never give up. They'll just resettle and take it another way. So what I'm hoping for is, getting back to what I said before, is for us to win Virginia or lose Virginia by 1 point or less or 2 points or less. Because if that happens, the map looks like this. It does. It just does. It just does. Maybe we don't pick up New Mexico. But if he wins Virginia, I'm telling you, man, it's on. So anyway, guys, that's all I have for this particular segment. I'm going to take a break here, and I'm going to come back, and I'll probably come back on Rumble. Maybe come back on YouTube, because I want to go over what happened this past week, particularly on Friday, what happened, what hasn't been covered in the news. So let's go back to my main thing here, and let's pull this off. All right, let's see a few more questions here. Okay, let's go to one pony again. Another statement here. My brother is a disabled veteran. He has his brothers. And his brothers all voted for Trump in Minnesota. Is Trump winning Minnesota? The safe bet is no. The safe bet is no. But it's right now, it's within the margin of error. So the way it's going now, if it were held today, I think he wins Minnesota. I think he does. We still have 2 weeks to go. And I mentioned this right now, what Kamala's new strategy is. What her new strategy is now, and we don't know if this is going to work, which is why I'm hedging myself. What she's trying to do now, and it's probably really her only play. I still don't think it's a good play, but it's probably her only play, is to attack Trump personally. Oh, that's a shocker. But specifically hone in on his mental stability and on his fitness for office, his age. Basically attack him like they attacked Reagan. And Reagan basically said, yeah, well, I will never exploit the youth and experience of my opponent. And he killed that whole thing with Mondale. So, and by the way, speaking of Mondale, she skipped the Al Smith dinner, and he actually won Minnesota, and that was it. So to your point, one pony. So yeah, so I think depending on how successful she is here, I think her problem is going to be, because what she wants to do is she wants to bloody him up. Because right now she's more popular than Trump by a few points, but he's never been more popular. And even when Biden had a more favorability over Trump, it still almost cost him the election. Technically it did. When he won by 40,000 votes in Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia. That's it. 40,000 votes. You put 10,000 votes in Georgia, you put 10,000 votes in Arizona, you put 20,000 votes in Wisconsin, and the election is a Trump victory. So, and yeah, in Pennsylvania, I think he lost by 80,000. So yeah, so she's going to try and do that, make him less popular, kind of skim off some numbers in his favorability in attempts to get some of that vote back, to get the margins back, where she gets electoral college advantage by maybe winning the popular vote. But see, for two reasons, this is going to work. Number one, she's crazy. We all know it. She's flipping out. There's been reports of her, cussing out her campaign manager for telling her not to go to Al Smith dinner. We have a link on our X feed on that. You can take a look at that. There's another account of her going ape crap after the interview with Brett Baer, literally crying after the interview. Now, who knows if this is true? I said this isn't vetted, but if it's true, it just stands to her mental competency. So she can say he's not mentally competent, and he can say the same thing, and it's a wash. It's a wash. So I don't think it sticks. Number two, she has to do way more than just be more popular than Trump. She needs to be winning the electoral college vote the popular vote in these polling, but the RCP average, I think, not just an outlier. She needs to have an RCP average of upwards of 8% to win the election in the Electoral College. And if I see that on November 5th, then I'm freaking out. I'm doing a live stream, an emergency session, and saying, guys, we could lose this thing. Legitimately. We can always, lose this thing. But there's actually more confidence on my behalf that we will actually be able to do better than the 2020 in terms of election integrity, for the reasons I mentioned in a post that I may bring up in the next segment. Let's see here. Says here, I live and travel through Virginia. If we go by signs, Trump would win 10-1. Yeah, Virginia, man. See, here's the thing, man. Here's what's interesting, guys. For the longest time, the Democrats were the ones, you remember this, if you're older than 40 years old, you know this. For the longest time, Republicans were like, Republicans always vote day of. That's what we do. We come in, we work hard, put that 40 hours in. Well, actually, it'd be a Tuesday. So you put that 8 hours in on a Tuesday. You go to the polling station, stand in line, cast your vote. Every good, faithful Republican did that day of, even when early voting was available. Because you know what? I'm doing it day of. That's just what I do. And it was the Democrats who had the hard time getting people to come out. The slacker, dude, man, is there election today? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to go vote today. I don't know. So they got to bust them in. They got to they got to do a George Floyd. They got to do some sort of thing to get people to get all riled up. Oh, no. We got to get out and vote now because that thing happened on the news and I got to go. Something to get people out the chair to vote because they're not politically and civically active but don't care about their country. All they care about is playing video games, sitting on their butts. I know I'm generalizing, but that's the perception that we as Republicans had on the Democrats. They were the slackers. They were the ones that didn't want to vote. And in all fairness, because I'm going to come back and say the same thing on Republicans, if you're working hard, you're tired. You got to go out. I work 8 hours. I come home and go to the polls. Why? I'm working 10-hour shifts. Why do that? The working class is different than someone who sits behind a desk all day and goes to vote. So I know I'm generalizing, but the point is that the low prop voters, the low propensity voters were on the Democrat side. Getting them out to vote was always a problem. And we worried about that. But then with Obama, they did come out to vote. And that showed them, now they're activated. And they came out to vote again in 2012, not quite as much, but enough to get them elected in a nice, comfortable margin. So, and that trend continued. And so with laws like harvesting and stuff like that, the Democrats were able to just manipulate the votes and do things that were just undercover, illegal. And but what ended up happening was once Obama's second term, he turned so many people off the middle class. He lost an unprecedented number, maybe not unprecedented, because Grover Cleveland lost a lot in his particular term as well. Probably since Grover Cleveland in terms of losing House races, House seats, not congressional. I'm talking about like Texas District 1, whatever. He lost so many of those across the country that they lost the majorities in like North Carolina and like Michigan and like Pennsylvania and and so that ended up biting them much later in 2016 and almost again in 2020 because those majorities were the ones that actually helped to fabricate the voting laws so that he could win. And so the point is, I know I'm rambling here, it's reversed. Now the low propensity voters are now Republicans. We're the ones, the working class guys now. We're the working class people. We're the ones that have a hard time, getting off work and going to the polls. And so that's the issue now. And such that Democrats don't want a high turnout anymore. They want a lower turnout. I had this documented as well on my locals page. Go check it out. I got earmarked there. It's bookmarked. You can listen to that podcast with Robert Barnes. He goes to all the numbers. And so you don't see a lot of get out the vote now, do you? You don't see, go vote now. You don't see much of that anymore, do you? Because Democrats know if they get low prop voters, they break for Trump. 80%. 80% of low prop voters vote for Trump. They can't have that. So they want a lower turnout now. So this whole realignment, we're living through a serious realignment in our country, a massive realignment, where it's no longer left and right. It's no longer Democrat, Republican. It's no longer conservative or liberal. It's a vertical realignment from top to bottom. It's the oligarchs versus the people. It's the permanent political class against people who go to the shopping center and see that a loaf of bread costs $8. And it's not even organic. That's the alignment. And that's why you can have like Elon Musk, you can have Tulsi Gabbard, you can have RFK Jr. on the populist left come with the biggest populist right character in probably since Andrew Jackson and Donald J. Trump. That coalition has come together because we're aligned not philosophically, not ideologically, but we're aligned because the man sucks. He's got to go. And that is something that's universal. It's universal. It goes back to the Magna Carta. Prior to all of this, where basically you had the rich lords and the barons, and you had the kings and the queens and the churches, whatever. And they were like, yeah, we're in charge. King James, I have a divine right to rule. What I say goes. If you don't like it, take it up with God, because he gave me the divine right to rule. Whatever I say goes. Well, that wasn't good. So then eventually they came up with something called the Magna Carta, which basically wasn't really poor people, let's be clear. It was just richer or less richer barons and nobles and whatnot. Because, hey guys, I know we don't have the political power you have, but can we have a say too? So it started there. And so my point is that it's always been against demand. And if you can align ourselves vertically like that, that's the thing, man. We can fight 20 years from now. We can fight over policy later. But right now, if we have this oligarchy, this and a media that is so insidious in keeping the narrative in place, even though it's obviously false, where they're gaslighting everyone, and then they're using that as cover to attack their own people, their own candidates, their own people who are running against each other. And there's nothing we can do about it because big ag, because big tech, because big media, because big government is all working together against us. And that's why it works. And that's why Trump's going to win. And that's why Trump's going to win hugely, because you can't beat a coalition that big. The only issue we have is chasing ballots. That's it. Voting and chasing ballots. That's it. If we do that, we will win every state I mentioned there, minus the ones I said are safe for Democrats. Jimmy Carter was leading Reagan, I believe, leading up into the election day against Reagan in 1980 by, I believe, double digits, I believe. And then after that last debate, I think it just broke hard. All the independents went for Reagan. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? It broke hard. And that's what happens. Landslide victories break hard the last two or 3 days of the election. It happened with Hillary Clinton. She was way up, way up. The last 3 days, she tanked. And here's another thing to think about. Kamala Harris right now, when Hillary Clinton was at her lowest, that's where Kamala is right now, 2 weeks ago. So at Hillary's lowest, when she lost the election, Kamala is at that point right now and still trending lower. So unless we see a trend going up, this is going to be an utter and total disaster, which is why we'll have to wait and see how her new policy or her new campaign strategy of calling Trump, mentally incapable, whatever, incompetent, how that works out. It may pay off. She may have a little spike there. And if there's any kind of spike, even if there's 1 point going in her favor, all of a sudden the mainstream media, oh, Kamala's back, she's gonna win, and try and disenfranchise Trump supporters, try and get us all riled up and depressed, and we're gonna have all these response bias polls response bias poll basically means is when you call someone on the phone, are they more willing to answer your call than before? For instance, let's say Mitt Romney, after the first debate, when he basically destroyed Obama, destroyed Obama in the first debate. And so, and I remember this because I was a big Romney guy too. I was like, wow, we can win this thing. We can win. Because I think Romney actually led the polls there for a little bit. But what we're seeing was a response bias poll, meaning that when they were calling, they called 100 phones. 30 of them were Republican, 30 of them were Democrat, and 34 of them were independents, or however that math works out. 34.3 were independent. The independents voted, or answered the call, I guess, so many. None of the Democrats answered the phone. So all you got was a bunch of Republicans saying, yeah, I'm voting because Romney is going to kick butt. But it wasn't real. It wasn't real because you had a bad sample. And so that's what you want to see. If Kamala has anything happen, take up a little bit, then there can be full force. You have Q poll come out. You can have Marist come out. You can have all these horrible polls come out with these huge outliers, response bias polls, trying to pump her up. And then she'll get more excited and then try to get more interest, get more people to come out because people want to vote for the winner. And so that's what's going to happen. And so we just got to be diligent. Duty-wise, ignore everything until the final, until certified. No, really, ignore everything until has his hand on the Bible, staying on Capitol Hill, and saying, and being sworn in. I'm not going to celebrate until that moment because I don't put anything past Democrats at all. And by the way, we should win the Senate pretty comfortably, maybe get a couple pickups maybe. And it's looking really strong with the House as well. The generic ballot is now positive Republicans. And generic ballot basically means is when you ask someone for the Congress would you vote for a Democrat or would you vote for a Republican? And that margin is what we call the congressional ballot because there's so many seats. It's hard to say one way or the other, but it gives you indication of whether or not one party will keep the House or we take the House or what have you. All right, I'm getting tired, so I'm going to do a few more questions and let's keep going. Let's see here. Vivek would be a great president, except a lot of his money his campaign came from George Soros. Now, yeah, I've heard that argument too. I've looked into it. I'm not overly concerned about it, but that's a campaign nightmare for anyone running against them. I mean, I would hit that so hard every single time. But yeah, the campaign money came from, I believe it was a foundation of George Soros. That was correct. So I would dig more into that. That does concern me for sure. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have an article about her father. Yeah, his name is Donald, I believe, just like Donald Trump. Donald Harris, I think his name is. Donald P. Harris, I think his name is. Yep. Yeah, it's in, and there's a Harmet, I don't know her last name, interview. She's a lawyer for Trump, talking about Kamala Harris and all the things she's done and how bad she is in terms of her political worldview and so forth. And by the way, yesterday she called out one of her, at her rally, someone yelled out, "Jesus is Lord." And Kamala looked at him and said, "You're in the wrong rally," I believe she said. "You're in the wrong place, you're in the wrong rally," whatever. And then that person got kicked out of the rally. So, but then a few weeks earlier, she was actually doing Bible verses at a black church. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Obama's just making it worse for him. I mean, when you have someone like Stephen A. Smith, or Stephen, what's his name? A. Smith from ESPN, he came out and attacked Obama. He's like, dude, how dare you say, that's inappropriate to vote for Trump over Kamala? How about gas prices? How about food prices? How about the economy? How about our border? Stephen A. Smith. I may do a video on that one too. So, yeah, that didn't go over very well with black men. In fact, it made it probably worse for her. Everything she does is backfiring. I mean, Taylor Swift, that blew up in her face. That whole video that she did at the Al Smith dinner, which I'll talk about real quickly here. The Al Smith dinner is a Catholic dinner in New York where it raises money for many Catholic charities. And traditionally speaking, every major presidential candidate has spoken at this event. It's a roast, essentially. So each candidate gets to talk trash about whomever they want. It's in good spirit. You know, it's funny. Hillary did it. Trump did it both times. And it's a good time, raises money. It makes good for the press. It's fun. But Kamala didn't go to this. Instead, she submitted a video, which was dumb. It was her. I mean, hold on, let me clear myself. So she does this video. She does this video, man, where she's like standing up talking like as an interview in some backdrop, American flags, whatever. And some person is running back behind her, back to and fro. And then she's basically geeking out because she saw Kamala, which is a dumb thing. It was dumb. And so that didn't go over very well. Everything she does is bad. The Brett Baer interview was bad. The interview on The View was bad. So is there anything you would do differently for Obama? Not that I can think of. That immediately became an ad. She's just a disaster. She's just a horrible candidate. And she is absolutely the worst candidate in the history of American politics. I mean, even Franklin Pierce, he had a lot of accomplishments. Now, his son died on the way to the White House. It was a horrible accident. I'll leave the details for you. It's a train accident. But Franklin Pierce's son was killed graphically right in front of him on a train accident. And he spent his 4 years in the White House pretty much in the bottle. I mean, I can't, but he was a horrible president. But even he had way more accolades than Kamala. She basically just went from job to job to job. I'm sorry, from job to Willie Brown to job to not getting promoted to Willie Brown to getting promoted to not getting promoted to going to Willie Brown, coming back, getting promoted, not getting promoted, Willie Brown, getting promoted, getting appointed to vice president. That's her career. Yes, I failed to mention that. Yes, 100% spot on. Yep, you're right. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't mention that, but yeah, congressional seats are very, very important, and that's one of the reasons why I think we're seeing the congressional ballot go red. Whereas before it was negative for a long time, and that concerned me. The Senate, to me, worries me the most because they're the ones who appoint all the positions, the judges, and they're the ones who ultimately can convict on impeachment. Because if they get the House again, they want to impeach again, maybe 4 or 5 more times. So we're going to need a Senate to make sure he doesn't get convicted. Wow. So how long have we been going? Oh, this is probably the longest live stream I've done, probably since our 100,000 subscriber go live, because I didn't know when we were going to go over 100, so I had to stay on until the ticker went over to 100,000. So, all right, so I'm gonna take a break. Let me see. I got one more comment here. Do you notice my silence? I'm thinking. Put it this way. Okay, so I mean, she's done some things. I mean, she's locked up some brothers in California. She I'm not sure what she did behind the funding for inmates who wanted to transition. She did that. But I think there's not much she's done to help the average American at all. And her being the border czar is a big thing that she was responsible for. And they can deny all they want, but I had the receipts. Again, on my locals channel, I have, in fact, when I come out from the break, I'll bring all that stuff up and show you how you can get to it. On the local site, we have an article on her being officially called the border czar from congressional records. In the congressional record, you can go look for yourself from the own government website. Called her the border czar. It was a resolution. And I'll show you when we come back from the break. So, no. Answer your question in the context of what you're asking, no. All right, guys, I'm going to take about a 5-minute break. And this next segment isn't going to be long. I'm going to go onto Twitter or X. And I'm going to go through some articles, and I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go over to Rumble. And then I'm going to vent on why this whole thing about election integrity is important. So thanks you guys so much for this. This has been a last-minute live stream. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I'm going to do a 5-minute break. If I can find my takeaway. Here it is. Found it. All right. So I'll be back for about maybe 20 minutes. 5 minutes from now. 20 minutes. Take it to about 12:30. And then from there, I'll decide if I want to go to Rumble or not, or do that later. I'm not quite sure yet. So anyway, let's do that. And guys, thank you so much. I'll see you in about 5 minutes. All right, we are back. This segment will be about 20 minutes or so. And what I want to do, number one, is I want to share with you our locals page because I mentioned it many times. And again, right now, all this is free. Once we get a lot of people on it, then maybe that'll change. Right now, the important thing for me is to get the information out there so people can kind of see what's going on. So the actual link is theconservativetake.locals.com. Do I have a link here for that? I should have done that earlier. I think I have a banner for that. I can put it up here. You can see it here. So all of our stuff's here, so you can take a look there. So we do articles. I have a team that helps me out. I farm this stuff out. But what we do is we do policy papers and stuff like that, and articles pertaining to the election and whatnot. Our latest one is on a position paper on tariffs and why it's a good tool and how things change after 1913. Because like that tariffs actually killed Grover Cleveland, crushed him, because the short term didn't work out and the economy was horrible. But things are different now. Stuff on Mark Robinson. See, we're in North Carolina. We're close to this particular election. And I think I mentioned something about, well, I go through all these because you'll see them, because I mentioned one about her father that I want to show you. This is basically about why Trump's the only leader who can fix our broken system. We give sources, we document this stuff, and it's something that I want to keep to go forward because for myself personally, I like to reference stuff and be able to go to a place where I know where it is, because sometimes things get lost on the internet and you don't know what happens to that particular article. It got scrubbed or whatever. So I like to keep track of stuff and download PDFs so I can say, okay, this is where it was and this is where you can find it. So here's a good article, The Luciferian Spirit of Karl Marx Philosophy and Christian Perspective. And this is the one, not on her father yet. This is on her opinion of the economy and government control, her opportunity economy, which is nothing more than Karl Marx. This is just dealing with that too. Socialism and planned economies. This is Karl Marx and her. We put that in a PDF, so you can download that. Planned Economy Explained, give me source stuff. Keep going. Robson again. And where is that article? It's in here somewhere. This is the assassination plot and how Ukraine came to play there. Where is that article? Willie Brown stuff. Okay, I'm sure it's in here, guys. I don't know. I don't see it, so I apologize. But it's a really good article that goes into all of his. Wow, he did a lot of. I forgot he did all this stuff. Let's see. We do about an article a day. All right, I'm gonna stop here. But anyway, no, this here is good because this is what I was telling you about before, about the different things about the low prop voters, low propensity voters going to Trump by double digits. Dems want a low turnout. Michigan, Kamala's internal polling has Trump up 1. So Kamala's internal polling, as of August 25th, had Trump up 1 in not Minnesota. It's Michigan. RFK, how he came up short. I'm sorry, how he can come up and his impact. So yeah, go take a look at this. The article on our dad's in here somewhere. I don't know. I didn't realize we had this many articles out there. Where is it? This is gonna get bad. Where is it? I'm not gonna stop. I'm not giving it up. Here it is. Here's the article. So here's the article on our. I just lost it. You saw it, right? You saw it, right? Anyway, that was there. That was it in there. So I'm gonna stop. Too much. So let's go over to another screen here. And I want to show you my Twitter feed. go there first. Now, hopefully this will show. Let me turn my volume up here. I want to make sure the volume works. Let's play this guy, see if it works.
And she's claiming that's not enough of service. So it's typical. She's right there. Her back is to me.
Okay, we're getting volume. I just want to make sure we had volume on this. All right, cool. So let's I put a couple things out here on our Twitter, or I say Twitter, but you know what I mean, X. Let's go to this here. So this is our X feed. And you see we're live there, here as well. So I put this up there at the break because I want to talk about it because it talks about what we just talked about. So right now, it says new leaks indicate that Kamala's camp internal polling shows Kamala losing every swing state and Virginia by a large margin. So if you know what this background making me mad. I'm sorry. I gotta get rid of that background. It's really irritating me. 1 second. Let's get rid of that background. Yeah, much better. It's distracting me. All right, so let's go back to this. So if this is true, that she's losing Virginia by a large margin in her internal polling, which, by the way, is way more accurate than public polling. There's two kinds of polling. There's public and private, or internal. Internal polls don't go out to the public typically. It's what the campaign uses to do their strategy. And they pay millions of dollars to do these polls. You have to hire people to make phone calls, walk streets, print out information, whatever. It costs money to do polls. So these polls cost millions of dollars. And they're critical to know what you're going to do in your campaign. I was a campaign manager for 2 campaigns locally in North Carolina. And as a campaign manager, you got a big responsibility. You got to figure out, do you talk to the Elk Club on Wednesday, or do you talk to the young women's knitting group at the same time on the same day? And it determines what your campaign strategy says. A lot of that's based on polling. You segregate the people you want, and you discriminate everybody you don't want. That's how you do polling. That's how you do campaign strategy. And polling is where it comes from. And I'm saying all this only to say that if her internal polls that cost millions and millions of dollars and are accurate, and they're accurate, if they're telling her that Virginia by a large margin, then yeah, I would say from my gut, New York and New Jersey are in play. I mean, it's not just winning Virginia. It's winning Virginia by a large margin. I mean, she's like, oh yeah, she's down by 0.05%. Yeah, well, whatever. But if she's large margin, what does that mean? Is that 5, 6, 7, 10, like the one guy said? If it's 10 points, then yeah, New York's going down. We're talking about Obama numbers now. We're talking about, we're talking about New Hampshire, gone. New York, gone. Minnesota, gone. New Mexico, gone. Colorado, gone. I'm telling you guys. Let's keep going. So I mentioned about the thing about Jesus is Lord and about that person getting kicked out. Well, right now, this is Scott Pressler. He is over the grassroots campaign in Pennsylvania. And I don't think I mentioned this to you guys. I think I forgot to tell you. I think I skipped over that when I told you about the statues. I think I got on a tirade there. I didn't talk about my point. If he does what he needs to do in Pennsylvania, they're going to build statues for this guy because what he's doing is incredible. So this source is credible. He said, and we can hear it here. I've heard two different versions of it. Not only the main feed you saw on C-SPAN, but another feed. Well, she pushed that guy. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's play this. Can you? There's no volume. Here we go. Start from the beginning. Did you hear that? I'll play it again. It's really clear. You guys at the wrong rally. All right. So what she said after that, it got cut off. What she said after that, because I saw the full clip, she said, what you meant, well, let me paraphrase. You mean to be at the much smaller rally down the street, referring to, I guess, Trump, which is, yeah, he's got much bigger rallies than yours. Give me a break. So this is Scott Presler. Again, he's over the grassroots effort and is doing a fantastic job. They flipped at least 2 counties from Democrat registered to Republican registered. And he says here, just spoke with the 2 La Crosse University students who were kicked out of Kamala's Wisconsin rally for saying, Jesus is Lord. It's real, it's corroborated. And he gives the people's handles right here. This is Luke P. and Grant B. So yeah, I'm gonna follow him and I'm going to follow him. Let's keep going, guys. There's lots of stuff going on. So yeah, what's going on here? It's us live. Hello. Live. Hello. Let's see. Interesting seems. Okay, so this is interesting here. Now, this is conjecture. I feel bad for posting this because it doesn't seem like it's all that true. But let me read the first one first. If I can find that one first, read that one, and then I'll read the second one. If I can find it. Let's read this one first. Let's just read this one. Might as well. So this is unsubstantiated. Looks like this is from Reddit. And so Kamala, after last night's interview with Bret Baier, my friend was in the camera crew for last night's interview with Bret Baier and Kamala Harris. Kamala clearly struggled, as many people have pointed out. After the interview concluded, she apparently refused to shake Bret's hand and called him dirty. She then said, "You're just another lousy MAGA nut job." Bret just laughed. She then started to tear up and said, "We can edit this, right? I'm sorry. We can edit this, right? Right?" And she went to her team and said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, it's over." At least she knew she messed up. Now, look, I've seen a lot of reports about Trump that weren't true. And, so take that for a grain of salt. But it's not the only thing out there as well that sort of gets into this sort of thing. If I find it, I'll bring it up and show you. And so, yeah, so this is the campaign that I think Trump should do. So you're gonna call me unfit. We'll call you unfit, and we'll lay out the facts, both sides, and let the people determine. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a wash. So I think it's ineffective for her to do that, but I see why she's doing it, because it's probably the only place she has right now to kind of bloody up Trump so he can have a lower favorability, which to me is only half the battle. She's still going to have to do something about that, the polling, and get it up above 7 or 8 if she has a shot at winning this thing. So Valiant Fox is a guy I follow, and this particular testimony is super duper amazing. I'm gonna play it. It's only a minute. Check this out. I won't say anything leading up to it,
So I am here at a Turning Point USA Donald Trump Jr. MAGA rally. I just got my first free MAGA hat. Guys, I am coming from...
Sorry, start over.
So I am here at a Turning Point USA Donald Trump Jr. MAGA rally. I just got my first free MAGA hat. Guys, I am coming from the far left, communist, socialist, Bernie bro, tranny. I'm a detransitioner. This is my first time voting red in my life. This is my first time voting for Donald Trump. I voted for Joe Biden and I regretted it. Now I'm here. I can't believe it, how far I've come. And I really stand as a testament of resilience, of courage, of truth seeking and truth telling. And so I'm here to say, it's okay to evolve. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to admit you were wrong. And taking that personal responsibility for my own life and healing from my trauma has allowed me to see the evil in this country and to be able to promote healing on a cultural level. So I'm here. I feel so grateful to be part of this movement where everyone is loving, kind, tolerant. It's a very diverse movement. It's nothing like what I ever could have imagined it was back when I was very close-minded and bigoted. And I just want to say I'm very humbled to be here, and let's make America healthy and let's make America great again.
Woo! I'm an emotional kind of guy. I really am. I don't mind sharing my emotions and wearing them on my sleeve. And that right there got me because, right. Well, there was a campaign with a guy by the name of Brandon Straka. He was a Democrat for many years, and he started a movement called the #WalkAway movement. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. Well, fast forward 7 years, he did a contest for asking for submissions for this particular campaign, and the winner gets a pretty good prize. And I put mine out there, and he acknowledged my video, and he put it everywhere, on Instagram, on his Facebook page, on his app, his Walkaway app, on Twitter, and not just once, 3 or 4 times, and comment and responded to me directly, saying how much he liked it, and he said he even was brought to tears of a video that I made. And to me, it's just a story, and I've seen many of these videos, and all of them make me emotional because no matter what they're coming, where they're coming from. So, and one I saw was really powerful. I mean, the guy was crying on he was a black guy. He was actually literally crying on the video, talking about how everyone abandoned this guy. Everyone, no friends, because his stance for it's and to see her, it's just, and to see the attacks that we get all the time that Trump gets physically, I mean, it's almost too much. And God bless her. And the fact that she said this, one thing that she said that the one word that she said that really was powerful to me, and the one word that you don't see very often in this is anecdotal for myself here, and that is the word grateful, thankful. Because once you're grateful and thankful, you're no longer looking at yourself as being the center of the universe. Why are you thankful? You're thankful because someone or something, being God, families, friends, are supporting you. So it's outwardly looking in, a reflection of not being egotistical and thinking that you're the center of the universe, and accepting and appreciating what you have versus what you don't have, which is the key to Marxism. He's got something, I want it. So let's keep going here. I'm going to go through these. I want to show you one. Some of these things I haven't seen yet, so I'm not going to show you. Yeah, this is the. Well, let's see the whole clip here since we're here.
With the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
People don't like smugness. Look, I get hecklers. I get the response, and it was probably a good response for a typical heckler. Probably perfect, but not for Jesus is Lord. Come on. It just what she should have said, which she wouldn't have. Yes, you're correct. Jesus is Lord, but you're at the wrong rally. You're being disruptive. That would have been much better, or just to ignore it and let the handlers do it. So it just shows who she is, and then to be smug about it. Same thing with the whole Eucharist thing with Gretchen of who's she with? Is that Michigan governor? Taking a Dorito as a Eucharist. Just Catholics didn't find that very, very, I'm sure they didn't appreciate that. This is Scott Pressler. I won't play this video, but he's talking before a Luzerne County Board of Elections, basically giving them the riot act. That's a good video. Go check it out if you can. I want to find this one thing here. Oh, here it is. Actually, let me pull up the actual, because I reported on it. I'm going to show you the actual story. I may not be able to find it. Might not be able to find it. Here it is. All right. Let me show you this here. So this is the other one I was going to tell you about that kind of corresponds to her mental stability. And this is a little bit better sourced than the other one. But again, take it for a grain of salt. But it's still, based on what I'm hearing, all these things can all be false. So here it is. Major drama within the Kamala Harris campaign this morning. A source reveals that Harris screamed at and angrily berated her campaign manager, Julia Chavez, for over 30 minutes on the phone this morning. That's a long time. Wow, 30 minutes. That's crazy. The source shares that Chavez advised Kamala not to attend the Al Smith dinner. Remember that Catholic dinner I was telling you about? Because it could send the wrong message and risk alienating LGBTQ and pro-abortion voters if she was seen cozying up to Catholics. Instead, Chavez suggested a compromise of sending in the poorly received video that I mentioned before in lieu of an in-person appearance, which, by the way, I failed to mention this. The last president that didn't do that, or last candidate who didn't show up, was Walter Mondale, and he only won one state, which was Minnesota. Chavez was in tears during the phone call as Kamala shred her to pieces, called her an idiot, inept, horrible at her effing job, and told her that her stupid advice is going to be seen, will be the reason she loses. The joy is gone. So yeah, so I'm not thinking that her mental stability, well, I don't think that she should be challenging Trump's mental stability. So I'll say I'll stop at about 12:30, so we'll do a few more. Here's that vote flipping I was talking to you about in Georgia, machine switching Trump voters to Harris votes, complaining to election workers who try to fix it, and the fix doesn't work. This is coming from Major Green, Congresswoman. This is from our feeds. Jesse Jackson actually endorsed a Republican. I mentioned this in the past that I've met Jesse Jackson a few times. Got a chance to spend several hours with him, and can tell you firsthand that he is actually doesn't really believe what he thinks. I mean, he told us in this. I was with him for about 7 or 8 hours at a rally in Greensboro, North Carolina, when he was dedicating the Civil Rights Museum downtown, and he basically said, "Yeah, back in the day, white people weren't that racist. You know, yeah, Bull Connor was, yeah, a few other people were, but you know, we got along. But then when the cameras got there, he changed his tune and was acted a little differently. But Jesse Jackson was never really at the level of like Al Sharpton. He never was that bad, but he did his damage after the assassination of King. Go look at that. Go look at that. Oh my goodness. Anyway, and yeah, Trump did the Al Smith dinner. Let's play this. Let's do this. This is interesting. I'll talk about this one. This is the Al Smith dinner. This is Trump roasting.
I used to think that Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. A major issue in this race is childcare, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just keep him away. That's a nasty one. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
That's great. That's great. And these are all great. I mean, go back and look at the one he did with Hillary back in the day. So Kamala should have gone. She should have gone. She could have, I mean, had she gone to that, she would have elevated herself in the polls. And now, because ultimately, the people who don't like Catholics, they would have come around eventually. They would have forgiven her. They had 2 weeks to forgive her. So there's no need to, just sounds dumb. It was a missed opportunity for her. And I'm glad she did it. So what else we got here? I'm going to call the wrap, guys. I'm going to see if there's any questions here. I think I've covered just about all this stuff here. This is basically them talking about how Trump doesn't do appearances. This is the appearances that he's done versus her. So go check out our feed. We put a lot of stuff out there. And yeah, just good stuff. So yeah, check it out. Anyway, so guys, I'm going to call this one a wrap and call this particular live stream. I am not going to do a Rumble. I'll do another one. So, because I don't really have anything to say really there that's really that profound that I didn't say already. So I guess I'm getting brave talking here on YouTube. So anyway, guys, let me see if I see any more comments here, and I will. Yeah, close the border for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. Thank you for doing that, One Pony. And let me just go through who's been on today. One Pony, Man and a Half. Thank you for that good comment. Mark Pearson, Nicholas Little, Becky. Thank you again for that comment. Ron B. And I think that's all we have. And Mac, you Kid 12 for talking about the congressional seats and why Trump is going to blue sections of the country. All right. Let me get rid of this one comment. So everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me for these 2.5 hours talking about election stuff. And let me know in the comments below if people watch this after the fact, what are your thoughts of that map? It's basically the same map as before, but I think what's interesting is that it's getting redder and that margins are getting smaller for Democrats. And I will probably do one more of those probably the day before the election as a final prediction or whatever. And just to once again toot my own horn. In 2016, I called the election for Trump the day of, and that was really, in some ways, it was lucky because from what I was listening to, I'm like, there's no way in the world he's going to lose Pennsylvania. He can win Michigan. He can win Wisconsin. I think I had him winning another. No, I think I had him losing Wisconsin. I think I was wrong on that one, but I had him winning Michigan and Pennsylvania, and so. Yeah, should be good times. So, what do you think? Should I do a news desk? Should I do an election desk on election day? Because I'll tell you right now, election day 2020 that's gonna be a hard one for me to do because there I am live, amped up, watching the New York Times meter talking about Trump's gonna win 80%, and next thing you know, you get a message or a tweet come out. Yeah, there's a water main break in Fulton County, 18,000 miles from Atlanta, and so we're gonna have to shut down the counting in Georgia. Okay, things happen, but then within like 20 minutes or so, Arizona shut down, and that's when I knew. Well, that's why I'll stop there. I'll stop there. I'm getting to rumble territory in terms of what I'm going to say. So, what do you guys think? Do you think I should do a decision desk, conservative decision desk? Let me know. I'll see if I can get some people on board with me who are brave enough to actually want to sit through that, because I will be on pins and needles the whole time, no matter what the polls say, no matter what goes on, because if you're not chasing ballots, we need to be protecting the vote. And that's what I'm not too sure about, how that's going to play out, which ways they can do it. So anyway, that being said, guys, I'm done. Thanks again. God bless you guys. You have a great rest of the weekend. And until next time, I'll see you then.